Alright, what's up everybody? In this video, I'm going to show you my way of mixing a trap beat. I don't want this video to be like me talking the whole time, so I kind of just want you guys to really listen and vibe out and just kind of hear the changes that are happening with what I do. It'll be good ear training for both of us, really. So always start by organizing your sessions. This can be like really time consuming, but it saves a lot more time later whenever you're in your workflow and you're in the zone vibing out. I did this already, so we can pretty much just skip to the fun stuff. So here I have the stems for a beat I made. I didn't do a mix or anything yet, I just kind of imported the stems and this is what we're given, so I'll just play a little piece for you so you have an idea of what we're going to be working with. Alright, so after I organize, the next thing I do is level the best I can. This is honestly where I spend most of my time on my mixes, but I'll try and keep it brief just for the purpose of the video, because I know you didn't just come here to watch me move faders. But everyone levels differently, so try and take away some insight from where I set mine. Now, I'll usually start with melodies. Alright, that sounds about good for the melodies. Now I'll start bringing in everything but the kick and the snare, well, in the clap in this situation. That's usually what gives me my groove and like when I start feeling things. I'm going to add in everything else, starting with hats. We'll just go down the list. Alright, and here's where I'll just start throwing in my snares. And then you drop that kick. Alright, now here's a little something I like to do. Since we're clipping right now, we just highlight everything and pull it right down. Whatever tracks you have highlighted simultaneously are the ones that'll move together. That's good for now. So when I start processing, I usually start by shaping the sounds with the EQ so that they can work together rather than fight for the same frequencies. When they're all fighting for the same frequencies, things will start to build up and just get too loud in certain areas, and it doesn't sound right. So you can hit X on your keyboard, scroll up to the effects, and then go bam, bam, bam. The reason I do this is because I really like to put an EQ on all of my sounds. There's never a time that I don't use it. Alright, so now that we have these EQs set up, I'm once again going to start with the melodies. And I'm always going to start by taking out the muddiness, which is the low end, the stuff you just really don't need to hear. This really cleans it up. So all I'm really doing right here is just taking the qualities I like and making them more audible, and the opposite for the qualities I don't like. So pretty much from here on, you're just shaping the sounds how you want to if you want to make any changes. Like if the snare is too punchy or something like that, you can just make some tweaks in the EQ. Simple things like that. Now keep in mind that you can see the name of the track at the top of the EQ so that you don't lose where we're at. Here's a perfect example of unneeded low end. This is a hi-hat. Mixing isn't about getting your track to sound different than it was before, so if immediate progress is what you're listening for, you're probably doing too much. It's important not to overmix, and it's really common for that to happen because there's no finish line or indicator that you're done. No mix will ever be done. You just have to know when to call it. And now I'm just going to copy this EQ and paste it to the other 808 tracks because it's the same 808. It's kind of just about making a small difference in every track, and that's what really makes things come together. So what we've covered so far is the majority of what I like to do to my mixes. It's not a lot, but that's the point. If you need to do more than what we've covered, then chances are your sounds from the source are what's giving you the problems and not your mixing abilities. You should never be fixing in your mix process. So I may add some compression to any sounds that are too dynamic, or if my melodic tracks are too bland, I'll try to spice it up with some reverbs or delays. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Now you may already know that it's common practice to insert any time-based effects on an auxiliary track and then send that signal to the aux track. It's not mandatory, but the reason for this is mainly just because it can use much less CPU than if you were to copy a bunch of different reverbs onto the multiple tracks that you're using. So let's just set one up real quick. Select the track you want to apply the effect to, and then go down to here and click on Send. Choose an empty bus, and now your aux track will pop up right here. Now if you click off, and then come back, it won't be there anymore. See stereo out here? Simply click on that again, or you can hit X and go to your mixer. It'll always be down there. So all this is doing is sending a copy of that sound to a blank track. So all we have to do is put our effect on that blank track. When I'm shaping my reverb or delay, I like to start with my send volume really high so that I can hear the changes that I'm making. Now this can take a long time to get it to sound right, so I already made one for this purpose. So I'm just going to select it. And your volume is located right here, so I'll crank it up to about 0 so that we can hear what it's doing. And then I'll solo the track that I put it on. Since I have this reverb the way I like it, I'm just going to slowly back this off until I like the sound it's giving me. It's pretty important to do this with the rest of the mix, that way you're not just hearing one sound, because then you often tend to turn it way too far down or way too far up. Now we can A-B. When you're happy with how it sounds, let's just take a step back for a second. Now focus your attention on the volume levels one more time. We've done a lot to the track since we originally set the levels, right? So that means our original balance could have got thrown off along the way. So let's just check one last time to see if we lost anything in the background or if anything maybe sounds like it's standing out too much. I'd like to bring down my hats a little bit and then raise my kick so that it cuts through the rest of the sounds a little bit more. A lot of people ask how you get your beats to hit harder, and a lot of the times all you gotta do is turn up your kick. It's common to kind of be distracted by all these cool plugins that do all these crazy things, but most of the time you don't even need that. You can usually always get your beat to hit harder or not so hard when you're balancing. So now that everything's in balance again, let's just focus on our output track to make sure we're leaving some headroom for the mastering process. As close as you can to -6 dB is ideal, but if it's necessary, you can get away with around -3 dBs. I just like to go to the loudest part of the track and see what our output meter reads. It doesn't necessarily have to be exact. So let's just highlight everything, just like before, and then pull it down a few dBs. Sometimes those little spikes will happen. We went up to -4, but that's about good because the average is -6. So now we're ready to bounce the track. A shortcut for this is Command B. In the industry standard before mastering is 24-bit 48K wave files. So let's select PCM, wave, 24-bit, 48K, and we'll touch on these another time because they're a little bit more advanced. So the reason we do this is because if your file needs to be smaller, like if you're burning to a CD for example, that's usually done in the mastering process. It's just important to master at a higher quality and then convert to smaller rather than mastering the low quality file. That just about sums up the mixing portion, so just be sure to stay tuned for the mastering process.